This is Hoosier Ag Today. I'm Andy Eubank, and recently I walked a field in Clinton County, Indiana, with Bill Mullen, agronomist with Seed Consultants. Bill had a number of thoughts and items that he wanted to stress. Keep watching for his observations and pointers about the early season corn crop.
Good morning, Andy. It's good to be with you today. As you can see, we're out at a customer's place here. The cornfield's behind me. Corn's up. But one thing I really would like to bring to people's attention is the fact that this year a lot of people have waited for the ground conditions to be right compared to when we looked at 2014 plantings. In 2014 it was cold, it was wet. We finally had that time to go ahead and plant the crop, get corn in the ground. We got it in, but then it stayed cold and wet afterwards. And that part of our problem is looking at sidewall compaction issues where the roots never really developed. The only way where we saw the development was going straight down, not going out. And it did affect the yield later on in that. People remember that last year because it did have an effect on their yield, more of it on the negative side. This year, people are waiting. They're waiting to make sure that they can get the crop planted in the right manner, at the right depth, the field conditions are right, because this year, especially looking at what the prices we're going to be getting and the inputs, want to make sure that we are really getting on the better side of getting this corn crop established early in the right manner. What I'm doing out here right now is I've dug up some plants. This field was pretty much planted at 34,000 drop. We're in 30-inch rows. Ideally we like to have a spacing somewhere around 6 inches, 6.1 inches in that, so that it's a uniform spacing for that yield per acre that we're trying to achieve, come the fall in that. We want to make sure that we've got the seed down there at that inch and a half, inch and 3/4 somewhere there, so that we'll go ahead and have the soil here loose enough that's allowed the shoot to come up through, as well as letting the roots develop. And as you can see here, a little bit hard to tell, but we've got a good shoot that's come up. It's germinating right now. See a little bit older roots here, but look at all our root hairs. Look at the development. We're going off to the side and we're going down deep in that. All right, that's very positive right there. All right, as you can see, we have two different color seed here, and that's because this hybrid here is with refuge in the bag. As we could see the different color of the treatment here, this being the refuge in that. And this plant here, we don't, as far as our shoot goes, it's pretty well the same, but our root system, it's not quite as extensive, especially going deep in that. All right, plant might have had a little bit harder time to go down through there, but still it's a good plant. We get some heat and the soil starts to warm this up. We're going to see this plant's growth going down with the root system going out and building a good root system, as well as letting that plant go ahead and start with its early vegetative growth where we're at right now, this being the mid-May and that. So really we got a good looking stand here. It's very uniform. Alrighty, what we've done here is we've walked up the same row where we were at before. Was in our darker soil, okay, a little better ground, if you want it, so to speak. We walked up a hill, same row. We're now more or less into the lighter soil, a little more clay, okay, not so much loamy it was before. And just to see how, at the same depth, are we getting the same, just as good root development up here on our lighter soil as we did down there in the darker soil. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's been work done for the past several years of looking at variable rate of seeding time with corn. All right, whereas we want to make sure, and then maybe in our better ground, go with a little higher population, but when we come up into some more of our variable soils with the tighter clays and that, maybe want to back down a little bit, depending upon the soil type. There's work to show that it does pay off. Everybody's field's going to be different, but it's something that we'll probably still have to work on for the next several years to come up with, to really say what is that optimal seeding rate in our better ground versus our variable soil all in the same field in that. I did go ahead and dig. We're pretty much at the same depth, about an inch and 3/4. The soil is still loose, and it should allow for good early root development, as well as allowing for the shoot to start taking off and going above. And if you could just come down here, and we had pictures before, but look at our root system down here. A lot better, more extensive, going deep. We're going off to the side in that. This one here is a little bit better, showing how our root system is developing. We have the depth. We're getting our roots to go lateral root system there. We have the mesocaudal is coming straight up in that. It might have a little curve or so in there. I think that was maybe because of the conditions at the time for trying to come through the ground and that. But it went through, and it's growing really well. This other one here, our root system is good, but it's not quite as developed as the other two. And I think we had maybe a little bit issue early on to get that early root development. It still go ahead and work. It still continued to build good roots, but on these two plants here, we've got a lot stronger root development, which is going to help that plant, its vigor, picking up the nutrients and the moisture to keep on growing in that. So, really, we're looking pretty much at the same population, but our seems like our root systems on these early plants, these young plants, seem to be a little bit stronger than maybe what they were in our better ground. So, it's something here I think our customers need to go out, look at their fields, dig up plants in that. This is something that's going to tell us. I'm not seeing any sidewall compaction, shallow compaction like I saw last year in that. Our customer here, as well as other farmers throughout the states, here, especially here in Indiana, they waited, and it was a good thing because it allowed the seed to germinate properly and start to build good early root system, as well as also getting good early shoot growth too in that. So, it does pay off. I haven't seen any insect activity. There's no wireworms or grubs here. I feel that even with the cloudy overcast days we have, that with the seed treatment that's on our hybrids these days, I think our seed treatments are pretty well up to date. We're getting a lot better protection against our soil-borne insects. One thing I do want to say is we need to still be concerned about black cutworm. I saw some issues down in the southern part of Indiana, coming up north, central part, and northern part. I haven't seen any yet, but that's not to say that they can't happen in that. If we would have to go through a spell there of cloudy, overcast days, maybe a little bit moisture or so in there, they will attack at the surface level as well as above the surface in that. Then they're going to cut the plants off in that. So I think sometimes once the planters are put away, the soybeans are done planting, we need to go out and walk our fields and just to see how that crop is growing out there. If we have any issues, we need to take care of them. We'll go back 5-6 years ago or 10 years ago. Universities have been doing work as far as really looking at what is the ideal planting speed for under the conditions when we're out here trying to plant our crop in that. All right. It seems like when we get towards that middle of May and if we haven't got anything planted in the ground, we've got like 600-700 acres, 1,000 acres to plant, there's a tendency to go ahead and increase our miles per hour in that, run up there in that 6.5 miles per hour in that just to cover more ground. And I understand we're getting the crop in the ground, but are we getting the crop in the ground for the best results? As we sometimes increase our speed, we're not going to get the accuracy in our depth. It's going to bounce a little bit more in that. So we're going to have some seed that maybe is being dropped at an inch, and where some seed might be, if it's a looser area there in that row, it might go down that inch and 3/4, which to me is ideal. So as we increase that speed, sometimes it doesn't seem like we're getting our accuracy in the depth, and sometimes we seem to have maybe a couple areas in a row we're getting a little bit more of a doubles or so out there. So really we need to keep in mind that planting speed is also critical for getting good uniform stand establishment of the corn crop. It was a good learning experience for me. It gives me an opportunity to come out here and walk our customers' field. our conditions, the planting time, and what we've had here for the most part after the corn has germinated and emerged. It looks very good. We've got good stand establishment, very uniform. There's a couple areas in the field where a little bit cloudy, but the plants are still coming up. But this is what we need to be doing once we get the planter done, is that just to go back and check ourselves, that making sure everything, what we wanted to do to come up with the best stand possible, that we did achieve those results in that. So encourage our customers and prospects, or any farmer that's planting corn, once the planters are put away, to go out there and walk your field in that. If there's any issues, be it for weeds or insects, we need to take care of them, because we're building for our yields come harvest time. We want to make sure we have a good foundation to work with, and it needs to be early on as a start.
And thanks to Bill Mullen, Director of Agronomic Services at Seed Consultants, joining us recently on a Clinton County, Indiana farm. For Hoosier Ag Today, I'm Andy Eubank.